So in part one, we explored how the language of the Pink Letter really points to Mance Rayder as the author, and not Ramsay Bolton. But why would Mance write the Pink Letter? The Pink Letter clearly has the goal of discrediting Stannis, discrediting the Wildling submission ceremony, and pissing Jon off. It's a recipe for chaos at Castle Black. Why would Mance do that? Aren't Stannis and Jon trying to help the Wildlings? I mean, they let them through the wall and even give them lands. Seems like a pretty good deal. As it turns out, Mance has specifically commented on this deal. In A Storm of Swords, he said, "When we want laws, we'll make our own. You can keep your king's justice too, and your king's taxes. I'm offering you the horn, not our freedom. We will not kneel to you." And 8,000 years of wildling hostility tends to support Mance's claim. Now maybe Mance has seen the light. Maybe he's now totally cool with Stannis and Jon and wants to help Melisandre fight the others. Except Mance said he doesn't like being Melisandre's slave. It gives him nightmares. And then there's all of the scheming. Oh yes, Mance is doing a lot of scheming, both north of the wall and south of the wall. Mance clearly wants to go ranging north of the wall. First, he claims to Jon that he'll be a good ranger. Then he volunteers for ranging. Then he scolds Jon for not sending him ranging. Now the whole point of ranging is to find Mance's old second-in-command Tormund, who's leading most of the remaining wildlings. So it seems like Jon dodged a bullet here by not sending Mance. Who knows what kind of schemes the two of them could have come up with. Instead, Jon sends Val to find Tormund, which... oh crap, that's a horrible idea. Best case scenario, Val only knows Mance is alive. Worst case scenario, Val has been scheming with Mance. If you remember, Val offered to marry the Lord of Winterfell, whoever Stannis may name, in exchange for Mance's life. And there's every indication that this offer was accepted. Stannis went on talking about the marriage of Val to the Lord of Winterfell as an eventuality. Mance ended up alive, and Val ended up participating in the Wildling submission ceremony without any emotional reaction. So Val knows Mance is alive. But who cares? It's not like they can scheme. Val is confined to her tower, right? Except Mance brags about how he can climb in the windows of the towers of Castle Black at any time. And she says something weird to Jon right before she leaves to find Tormund. She says that she knows what Melisandre sees in her flames. Who would tell her the contents of Melisandre's flames other than Mance? Now I'm not saying Val went along with the scheme, but I'd like to know how Val could possibly convince Tormund to come to the wall without telling him that Mance is alive. After all, if Tormund believes Mance is dead, that means he believes Jon's Red Witch burned the last leader of the Wildlings. Isn't Tormund now pretty much king beyond the wall, with king's blood and all? An ignorant Tormund should be scared to death of the wall. The fact that Tormund shows up implies that he actually knows that Mance is alive. Who knows? Maybe Val and Tormund had a completely different conversation and Mance didn't even come up. But it seems like Jon is leaving himself wide open, especially when you consider the events of the Pink Letter. What do I mean? Well, when the Pink Letter arrives, the first thing Jon does after reading it is hand it to Tormund. Tormund takes a look at it and then claims he's illiterate. Phew, another close call. I mean, that's Mance sending a letter and having his second-in-command read it. Had there been code in that letter, whew, there might have been trouble. It's a damn good thing Tormund Thunderfist had better things to do than make papers talk at him. Except he then says, "If I had me a nice goose quill and pot o' Meister's ink, I could write down that me member was long and thick as me arm." Wait a minute, Tormund. I know you're cracking jokes, but didn't you just say you were illiterate? Like 2 seconds ago? And earlier he even said dark wings, dark words. This means that supposedly illiterate Tormund, who lives in an illiterate society, knows about maesters, ravens, ink, goosequill quality, and ravenry sayings. Wow, Tormund, you know a lot about writing for a guy who claims he has better things to do than know about writing. Now, I'm not saying I know exactly what Mance is up to, but he did have the desire and ability to communicate with Tormund, who is now in a very powerful position at the wall. And the Pink Letter's chaos only seems to give him more power. But Mance and Tormund's scheming north of the wall pales in comparison to what's going on south of the wall. If you remember, Melisandre and Jon send Mance south of the wall to rescue who they think is Arya at Long Lake. Mance requests 6 spearwives for the quest, and then boldly claims that the spearwives will be useful for a certain ploy. That's right, Mance openly tells Jon he's scheming, and Jon misses it. Now Mance ends up not at Long Lake, but at Winterfell, which coincidentally is where fake Arya is getting married. How do you know that Winterfell was the right place to go? Well, the answer is House Umber. Long Lake is in Umber territory, and Mors Umber is there to pick up Theon and fake Arya after their escape. He was clearly expecting them. Mance also seems to have help from House Manderly, as he enters as a musician with them. And we know that the Umbers and the Manderlys are working together because the Manderlys leave out a untrapped gate, unlike the Freys. To review, this is the plan. Mance enters Winterfell with the Manderlys. Mance and the Spearwives then murder a bunch of people within Winterfell to create an environment of chaos and mistrust. The Manderlys then exit a side gate to not face the Umbers in battle. Fake Arya is then tossed over to the wall to be collected by the Umbers. Everything seems pretty solid. Mance is helping Jon, helping Stannis, and helping the Umbers and Manderlys. Except Mance is a big fat fucking liar. In A Storm of Swords, Mance specifically says he remembers Arya, and Mance has an incredible memory. Mors Umber, though, has not been informed and thinks fake Arya is the real thing, which makes Mance's no-show at Theon and fake Arya's escape seem all the more suspicious. Mance knows the mission is pointless, so what's his game? Going back to Mors Umber, we see that he calls Arya the younger daughter. Younger? The Manderly conspiracy involves putting Rickon in Winterfell. Arya is his older sister. That makes it sound like Umber is trying to rally around Jon as King of the North. Whether Mance is playing for Team Stannis or just wants general weakness among Northern Lords, Jon is now a target. This would further explain the Pink Letter, but I actually think there's something much larger and more sinister going on. Remember, prior to learning about anything the Umbers or Manderlys or anyone were planning, he had a certain ploy in mind. Mance shows great interest in the crypts beneath Winterfell for some reason. Although these crypts have nothing to do with his mission, he has his spearwives attempt to seduce Theon to learn their location. Now one may ask how Mance can even do this scheming if he's supposedly controlled by Melisandre. She has his son, and he's glamored by a ruby. But remember, Mance likely visited Val, and she could easily tell him the babies were switched. And while it's not revealed how Mance got the ruby off, he does arrive at Winterfell looking like Mance and not Rattleshirt. Without these two controls, Mance is free to go renegade. So in conclusion, Mance wrote the Pink Letter as some sort of connection between his two schemes, his northern scheme to contact Tormund, and his southern scheme which has something to do with the crypts beneath Winterfell. But what are in those crypts, and how does the Pink Letter connect these two very different schemes? And we'll get to that in part 3.